My name is Amanda Mendelsohn, and I am about to graduate from the Art History Master's Degree program, and I am one of the student curators of the show.
My name is Korina Hernandez. I am a first-year Art and Technology Studies master's student, and I am one of the student curators of SAIC's EXPO booth.
So the name of our show is Soft Tissue Hardwire, and the show is a mix of current students, mostly graduate students, but a couple undergraduates as well, faculty and alum. And we started off thinking about the Art and Technology Studies department here at SAIC and exploring ideas of nature, ecology, how humans interact with technology, and how technology interacts with humans as well. And so we chose a variety of different artists that we felt properly represented that work from the school.
What I think is interesting about this show is that it also engages with so many different mediums. We have naturally occurring items such as slime molds. We have electronics behind you in the flowers. We have lithograph prints, video, fingerprints, ink calligraphy, paintings, objects generated with user input from eyes and facial features, as well as concrete, photography. So there's no application process. Generally, we just sort of scoured through SAIC, works that we were familiar with in various departments, faculty that really stood out, as well as students and alumni that we thought would fit well with the theme.
Okay, so my name is Nathan Catlin, and I am the master printer at the LeRoy Neiman Center for Print Studies in Columbia University. And our shop was, founded or donated by LeRoy Neiman, who also has roots in Chicago. I think he's a Chicago guy. We run a print shop where we invite artists from all over the world. We choose artists kind of based on a collaborative feel. And the reason we brought a lot of the works that we did here today was it's a lot of from our archives, history. So some of the works were made in the mid 2000s. So it's really just kind of like a survey of a lot of the works we've done. We've been open for 25 years. We're in New York, so that kind of puts us in a place where a lot of artists live and work. Part of the center's mission statement is that the employees come from the grad students. So I was a former grad student at Columbia University from 2010, 2012. And after a few years of printing there, I became the master printer, is what they call it. But the majority of my employees, the people who make the prints, are actually grad students. And it's a way for grad students to meet artists, learn how to make work, learn how to edition prints, and also to learn new skills for their studios. The way it works is that we invite artists, I'll just say Kiki Smith because she's a very recognizable name and an amazing artist. But the way it works is we're non-for-profit. So what happens is we make an edition with her, and let's say the edition is 30 prints. We keep 15 prints, and she takes 15 prints. So there's no money exchanged. And what we do with the 15 prints is we come to fairs like this, or we also sell them directly out of our shop. And all the money that is raised through our sales goes back into the program. So the money that we make as a center actually goes back into the scholarships and the money that goes to grad students in order to go to school, because everything's very expensive. Wish we could give more, but we do what we can. And that was part of LeRoy Neiman's idea, was that the center would be making work for these advanced artists, for these big time artists, but also giving money back to the students that help to make it.
I'm an artist based in Chicago, originally from Iran, and I've been living in Chicago for the past 17 years. I'm an interdisciplinary artist. I do drawings, paintings, performance, and video, and I'm showing some new works with Chicago Artists Coalition today here at EXPO. So I've been working with plants for the past about 2 years. Currently I have about 120 house plants, and I've had them for a very long time, over a decade, some of them. So we've really become companions, acquaintances. So recently I started thinking about my relationship with these non-humans and what it looks like and what is that relationship is really. So these large drawings behind me, these are very new works. This one plant, it's a jade plant that I brought from Iran with me, and it's been residing in one pot next to another jade plant that is from Chicago, so it's local for here. And then on this panel, just drawing to the right, these are some other plants that are in my studio, my collection right now. CAC has been around for a very long time, a non-for-profit organization. They are located in Westtown. And CAC has multiple programs, but the residency programs that I was part of last year, we get to meet people from the art community in Chicago, and then at the end of the residency we get to have a solo exhibition. So the 4 artists that are showing works here, we all were part of the previous year's cohort and at Chicago Artists Coalition's Bolt residency program.
My name is Chris Papan. I am a Ka, Osage, and Lakota artist. I am a co-founder of the Center for Native Futures. Yeah, the Center for Native Futures was started because we wanted to have Native American art space in Chicago that represents Native art and artists in a contemporary way. We want to showcase artists who think about our futures as well as present and past. So that's why we call ourselves the Center for Native Futures. So we have a selection of 4 artists, and we chose them because we really like their work, and they're friends of ours as well. But really what we want to do too is we want to focus and highlight artists who are indigenous to the Chicago area or the Great Lakes area. So we have the work of Tom Jones, the beaded photograph portraits. Natives working in the medium of photography, I think is really important because photography has been so influential in creating the mythological image of Native American identity. So, kind of reversing that and brings more authentic and caring voice to that medium and those works. Basically, the false narratives started when Europeans arrived, and that false narrative was done for a purpose, in order to subjugate people, in order to exploit resources, whatever it was. There's always been a purpose to that misrepresentation, and that misrepresentation has been ingrained for so long that to reverse that narrative, to tell our own stories from our perspective, to give our account of our own histories. It's difficult, because it's centuries of all these lies that we have to overcome, on a daily basis. And, so, being here at EXPO, is such a great opportunity to reach a global audience with a first voice perspective that people don't expect.
Timothy Yarger is my name. Timothy Yarger Fine Art is the name of the gallery. It was established in 1997 in Los Angeles. For the middle part of my art career, I represented all very famous artists, from David Hockney to Picasso, from Renoir to Chagall, 20th century masters. So the first part of my art collection was really that kind of material. Picasso from the 20s up to David Hockney from the 1980s. But of the last 10 years, I've been focusing primarily on contemporary primary market artists that I represent. The primary motivation is the quality of the work. So it's not necessarily a consistent aesthetic, but quality. So as you can see, just in the 4 artists that we have exhibiting here, there's 4 very different aesthetics, 4 very different mediums as well. So artists come to us in a couple different ways. We have a very long history, and a lot of artists want to work with us. We have a long historical good reputation of dealing art, being honorable, and consistently attentive to our artists, so people like to work with us, which I'm very proud of. I oftentimes ask our artists, who do they like? Who do they respect? And that leads us to a path of meeting more people. The artwork has to be very well done. Oftentimes that's referred to as craft. So if a painter has an incredible skill set or a sculptor has an incredible skill set, that's essential to the artist that we work with. I think that's a very interesting question. If you look through the history of art, art is influenced by the materials that artists have to create the work. So when pigments became stable enough so they could be transported easily, artists were able to move from inside of a studio to paint outside in plein air painting. Photography has changed. The technology of photography has changed throughout the history of photography, and allows people to make different kinds of photographs and different tools to make those photographs. With materials like acrylic or pigments or paper, all allow an artist to have different tools to make the artwork. So I think where art is going particularly is the advent of tools of technology. Also, the dynamic experience of enjoying a work of art, I think, is also very important. That a static work of art is beautiful. If it has a narrative, it's fantastic. But if it has motion and fluidity, it gives a greater visual and emotional stamina to the work and experience for the viewer.
Well, I think it's really interesting given just the mediums our booth encompass, and then being able to go around and see how different it is from the other booths here. Most of them showcase painting and photography, and just being in a space where we go to school at a contemporary art institution, and these things are almost something that I feel like we take for granted. I think new media is really breaking into the traditional art scene, I guess you could say.
I think when you look at a lot of this work, it is really different than a lot of some of the other stuff that's being shown, and we've had people come up to us and comment about that, being like, it's really a breath of fresh air to see some of these different types of work, whether it be robots or videos or slime that they're growing and making art out of. I think just exploring new mediums and playing around with them and coming up with original ideas, I think these students are definitely people to watch and see in the contemporary art scene as well. Yeah.
I don't know, I think contemporary art is right now at a very interesting place. With all of the hot subjects that are happening right now, dealing with like the personal relationships to things, culture, race, ethnicity, gender, and then, working with all of these things, and then, the theoretical sides of like where these ideas come from, but then also on top of that, aesthetics, And so I think right now we're at a time where all these things are butting up against each other, and it's interesting to see because of all those different things that are kind of like butting heads, and you get like these really interesting works that are aesthetically pleasing, things that you want to look at, but then they also have these deep meanings behind it that sometimes are right there, or sometimes you have to dig a little bit for, but I think that it's really, contemporary work is asking a lot of questions, but also offering a lot of answers, and I think that's really interesting about contemporary work.
The direction of contemporary art is like people who are, I guess, could be considered gatekeepers or like gallerists or museum curators. They are making room for indigenous contemporary voices, but more room can be made because there's a lot of voices out there. And again, like I said, there's all of that history that has to be overcome. There's centuries of misrepresentation that will not be erased by one booth exhibit at Expo. There's so much work to be done, and yeah, there's a lot of voices out there that can and should be heard. So.